On the morning of October 7, 2023, Hamas terrorists invaded southern Israel, murdering over 1,200 people and taking hundreds of hostages. And the war rages on. Welcome to Freedom Alive. Now is the time for followers of Christ to stand in the gap and pray for Israel and to reject anything that undermines Israel's legitimacy and importance. Amit Grinfeld is a reserve lieutenant colonel in the Israel Defense Forces. Amit joins us today to share some first-hand stories from the front lines regarding the fight for control of the Holy Land. I'm blessed to again be joined by our co-host, Matt Staver from Liberty Counsel. And Matt, now more than ever, we need to stand with Israel. It's not an option with God. And when people who claim to be Bible believers fall into the trap of speaking out against Israel, it's a trick of the enemy.
It really is. I mean, what you saw with regards to October 7 is the face of pure evil. And I've seen many, many videos and photographs, and we've talked to people. We have friends that live in Israel. And you know what you saw there is something that we have seen building for some time. This is not a battle for maybe parceling up the land. You live here, I'll live there, we'll all live happily ever after. Those individuals want peace with those in their surrounding area. And to attack them brutally like that, and the despicable, undescribable kinds of things that they did to women, to children, to the elderly, to so many different people, is beyond, just belief. It is at the level of, or even worse than what you see in the Holocaust. It's that bad. And so we now must stand with Israel. Absolutely.
Such a story of spiritual warfare being waged right in front of our eyes every day. We cannot wait to bring this interview to you, but our Freedom Alert is next.
This is a dangerous threat to our freedom. The World Health Organization's latest version of the so-called pandemic agreement could have a devastating impact on America and our sovereignty. While this plan is a treaty, this Biden administration calls it an agreement or an accord. For the United States to enter a treaty, the Constitution requires the U.S. Senate to approve it with a 2/3 majority vote. But Joe Biden plans to unilaterally sign America under the global authority of the World Health Organization without a Senate vote. The WHO and its members plan to meet in Geneva, Switzerland, beginning May 27 to finalize this agreement. We must not forget the extensive government overreach at the height of the pandemic. The level of control would be even worse with the World Health Organization at the helm. For more information, go to lc.org/WHO.
Up next, Matt's interview with Amit Grinfeld.
It is my distinct pleasure to welcome to Freedom Alive a very special guest all the way from Israel, and he is Amit Grinfeld, and he is a reservist, lieutenant colonel in the Israeli Defense Forces. And welcome to Freedom Alive.
Thank you very much for having me.
We have so much to talk about. You're here visiting in the United States, and you live in Israel, and we all know about what happened on October 7. But for a reality check for some people who may know different levels of degrees, Amit, I want to talk about your background, but I also want to talk about what we have right in front of us here.
Of course.
We'll talk about that in a few moments. But give us a little background for those who may not know you, about your background, your service in the IDF, what you're doing now.
Okay. The most important thing is that I'm married and I have 4 wonderful children, 2 boys and 2 girls. And the fun fact, my wife's name is exactly like mine. We are Amit and Amit, seriously. And we are trying to raise 4 kids in the only Jewish state on the planet, the small state of Israel. And there are a lot of people who are trying to uproot us from there. Needless to say, even exterminate everything we know. So as everyone in Israel, I mean, I'm a tour guide. I work in the tourist industry for the last 16 years. It's what I do. I'm a storyteller. But like all Israelis, I had to serve in the IDF. I have the best job in the army, which is a commander of a small unit in the home front command. And I'm very happy to tell you, Matt, that my job is to save life, not to hurt other people, but actually to work with civilians, civil defense. We deal with the bomb shelters. We deal with the instructions of people of how to defend themselves against, aerial bombings, earthquakes, floods. We were even busy during COVID. Because whenever there is a disaster, and October 7 was a disaster, it's an ongoing event, we were called immediately. And me and my fellow officers arrived to our unit almost immediately, the second we could. And there was a lot of confusion. And I'm here actually to speak up for Israel. And this is my new journey, actually. Something that I'm saying is me and my 2 American associates and my Israeli associate decided to create We Walk Together. It's a small organization. We're all volunteers. And this organization is going to teach Americans about what's going on in Israel to try to fight anti-Semitism, fake news.
Yeah.
And possibly also when things will calm down, to have important guests, influencers, VIPs, NBA players, internet hot stars, and maybe we'll get, I don't know, the Taylor Swift one day to come to Israel. But one step at a time. Right now, nobody's coming to Israel except very few special people.
Yeah. For those people like us, we've been to Israel so many times, and we have so many friends in Israel, and it's painful to see what's happened because so many people like yourself, you were in the tour industry, the restaurant industry, wherever you may have been, and all this tourism has stopped.
Disappeared.
But to give a little idea to the viewer about what's happening here, I'm holding this melted piece of lead. You can see it. Melted piece of lead. Tell us where this came from.
Unfortunately, one of the biggest terror attacks in history happened in October 7. And I'm not talking about the general onslaught when Hamas, who was preparing for this for years apparently, they attacked basically every outpost, every peaceful community, everything they could. But the worst atrocities happened in the Nova Festival for Peace. How ironic. It was a music festival. A lot of young people came just to dance, to have fun.
To support peace.
Yes. It was literally considered a festival for peace. And that's one of the reasons probably why they tried to do it close to the Gaza border, to send a message of peace. And here I hold a piece of, as you said, lead that melted from actually an engine of an ambulance.
This is from an engine.
Yeah, there was a small ambulance over there.
So the engine was so hot that the engine itself melted.
I've seen the ambulance, and 15 kids tried to hide inside it when the massacre around them started. Those terrorists showed up from nowhere with motorcycles, with Toyota pickup trucks. So they surrounded them and started butchering, raping in cruelty of barbarians from the Dark Ages. They took a lot of kids captive. And 15 kids tried to run into this ambulance hoping to find some kind of a shelter inside. What the Hamas did was to fire those shoulder rockets, what we call RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades. The ambulance was hit twice, flipped on its side, and exploded and started burning.
Wow.
It took almost 2 weeks to identify the human remains. Can you imagine if this is part of an engine that melted? Think what it can do to human bodies. Wow. The poor families, actually, my sister-in-law knew 2 beautiful young girls that were killed inside that ambulance. And this is it. This is the atrocities that our generation will have to remember and never to forgive. The other pieces that you see here are charcoals also from the same site. And those actually were taken from my own backyard. So me and my wife and
these
the
are
kids,
taken from your backyard.
Yeah. We live in a community called Kidron. We are about 20 miles from Gaza. The area is full of those. Those are shrapnels.
And for those people who are looking at this, you can see here threads, so it's like a pipe. This is like a pipe bomb.
It was a pipe.
And they made it into a bomb.
Yes, the Palestinians turn everything into weapons. Those are irrigation pipes given to them by Israel. And they just cut the pipes. They don't care about irrigation. They have no need to feed their own civilians. The United Nations do it for them. And they just cut the pipes and they shoot them as rockets on Israel. It's not a very big deal to improvise a rocket and fire it. And since they don't care what they're going to hit, they shoot on population centers. And this is the result. You can see how it's twisted from the explosion.
Yeah.
This one actually landed where my wife stood very short time before that.
Wow.
And she told me that she had a hunch that she needs to go home. And you see, there was no siren. This probably exploded in the air far from us, but it can travel miles.
Yeah.
And when it lands very fast, it could have killed her.
Well, even when you shoot these rockets down, you still have shrapnel like this that falls to the ground. So this could hit you in the head, kill a person on the ground. This here is just so astounding because this is lead from an engine that's melted. And I think you had mentioned to me that the heat was so intense that it actually even melted some of the bodies of the people together. Amit, you know, one of the things for those of us who have been to Israel many times, and obviously you live there, you've seen this development over time, and there is this hostility that can only be from darkness against Jewish people. Because it's not about you live here and I live here. You're an Israeli Jew, I'm a Palestinian Arab. We can have our coexistence. It's not about that. It's I live here, but I also live in your space, and you can't be here. It is not about land. It is something that goes on for thousands of years to eliminate the Jewish people. And there is no way to negotiate with that kind of a mindset.
With people like Hamas, which is the same doctrine of ISIS or Al-Qaeda, there is no negotiation with those people. And we tried. We actually tried. When those people around us are calling for ceasefire, without even the demand of releasing the 136 hostages still held in Gaza, you need to understand those people know nothing. Hamas broke every ceasefire, including the one we had in October 6.
You had a ceasefire then.
Correct.
And you were...
And the second we lowered our guard enough, we slept when they prepared for the attack. We thought that the danger will come from mainly the West Bank, northern border, Hezbollah, which indeed are not exactly silent, but we fail to understand. It's hard to explain to an American person, but we fail to understand that the people of Gaza don't want to live. Their way is the way of jihad. It's a cult of death, unfortunately.
And they're trained like that from the cradle.
From the cradle, and indeed the Palestinian survey that was published 2 weeks ago shows a huge Palestinian support of Hamas, even now with all the destruction and death.
And listen, the United States of America, from past presidents to the current one, except for President Donald Trump, he tried to stop it, continued to fund the Palestinian Authority that continued to use our money, your money, to create this indoctrination of kids. And that needs to stop. It needs to stop. There is no such thing as a two-state solution, not because Israel doesn't want to live in coexistence of peace, but because they don't want two states. They want one state. They want no Jews. They want no Israel. So what's the future for Israel? About Gaza, for example, about the whole issue with the so-called Palestinians, if you will, and the terrorist in the north, the Hezbollah.
Well, let's start with Gaza. Now it is definitely time for self-defense. It is not time to negotiate with terrorists except on two things. Temporary ceasefire to release the hostages. And the second thing is, and I don't think it will ever happen, Hamas full surrender and dismantle of Hamas, which unfortunately I don't see this thing coming to reality. You cannot destroy a satanic idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the Nazis. There are still Nazis in the world now. You can destroy their army. You can take, you can take out their government,
Yeah.
which you must. But
What about
I
the
don't
North?
think. So in the north, we have actually daily skirmishes with a powerful Iranian proxy called Hezbollah, which ironically means Party of God. Hezbollah is shooting rockets and accurate shoulder missiles and anti-tank missiles into Israel every day. They're using Iranian-made drones, and they're supported by the Houthi rebels that are active in Yemen. They're threatening global shipping. And militias in Syria and Iraq. But all those are just tentacles. Okay, the heart of this horrific terror is Iran. It's the Islamic Republic of Iran.
That's the bigger issue.
By far, and if you ask what will happen with Hezbollah, it looks like we are on our way to a guarantee war against them unless something surprising will happen. Hezbollah, like all radical terror organizations, is usually moving like a shark. It can only move straight. They cannot stop, they cannot turn. And if things will continue as they are, I will not be surprised if we're going to roll into an all-out war. And they have enough of those rockets.
They have a lot more than Gaza.
A lot more than Gaza. Some would say they even have ballistic missiles. So Iran is giving them weapons. Some were made in Russia, some were made in China, some were made in Iran. Some are even self-made in Lebanon. Yeah, and I hope it will not happen, but I think we're heading there.
So, elections matter because, as you mentioned, Hezbollah is like the face, if you will, locally of Iran. It's
Definitely.
the puppet of Iran.
Definitely.
And the bigger issue is Iran. And so Iran hates Israel, calls Israel the little Satan. But you know what it calls the United States? It calls it the big Satan. So
Correct.
Israel is not the last target, it's the first target. But
Absolutely.
Israel, the United States, Europe, it's a global caliphate that it wants to impose. One of the things from a Jewish perspective, I've often wondered, what's it like post-October 7, not just with what you see with the terrorist, but there's something else going on globally that I think has been unmasked that probably surprised many of us, how widespread, there's a lot of support, of course, but how widespread this anti-Semitism is, this hatred of the Jewish people, of Israel.
Correct. Classical anti-Semitism is always there. It's embedded in, unfortunately, in the Western civilization, definitely in the Islamic civilization. And it is just changing names over the centuries. Once they hated us because of our religion, then they hated us because of our race, although the Jews are anything but a race. We are coming from all corners of the world. And now they hate the state of Israel, but that's just a different name to hate the Jews. Because you cannot hate the United States of America and not hate Americans. Same thing. You cannot hate Israel and not hate the Jews. They will tell you, listen, we criticize Israel, but we don't hate the Jews. I cannot see how you separate the two, because it's hypocrisy. Israel is the Jewish people.
Yeah, Muammar Gaddafi, in Libya, he made Israel a target so that he could try to be a leader of the Arab world. And he was involved in a lot of terrorism, and obviously he welcomed the terrorist in the Munich Olympic Games that slaughtered the Olympic athletes that were Israelis there. You have to ask yourself the question here, why is it that this one group of people, that's not large, globally, why is it that this one group of people through thousands of years, millennia of human history, has been targeted for elimination, against all odds, have survived against all odds? If that doesn't point to a God-ordained favor to the Jewish people, because I think, frankly, the opposition to the Jewish people is demonic. It's demonic. You have to ask yourself, why the Jewish people? When you look at Israel, instead of being hostile to Israel, every time we pick up a cell phone, we ought to be thankful. Lots of the technology that we have every day, it comes from Israel. Cherry tomatoes come from Israel.
Yes.
You know, what you put on your salad, those cherry tomatoes were invented in
Yeah.
Israel. Drip irrigation, you go on and on and on and on. So many things have happened in Israel as miracles since 1948 that we benefit from. Why is this hostility to the Jews? It's not about land. It's about that God has a plan, and there is a demonic, I think, opposition to the Jewish people that you see manifested not just in Gaza or Hezbollah, Iran, but also in this global manifestation of this anti-Semitism.
I think this hatred penetrated America deep. I think what you see now in college campuses is just part of this ugliness. And I think the other side realized the importance of the American support and love to the people of Israel. And time and again, this enemy, this abstract enemy that keeps attacking Israel from basically any place, every place. Now I believe that the front line, I think that the war in Israel in many ways, as hard as it is a secondary front. I believe that the public relation war is more important. This is why I started this organization. Because unfortunately the Israeli government is very busy in other things, and they have no money to support anyone. Indeed, when we asked for support, they told us, sorry, we don't have any money. This war cost $130 billion so far to a country the size of New Jersey. I don't even know how they're going to manage that. The thing is, I see hope by volunteering, by personal initiatives like mine. And this is what We Walk Together is trying to do. It is an attempt to bring the light to the Americans. And over here, as you told me just before the show, I'm among friends. Wait until I'll start working in the college campuses.
Amit, you have an organization. Tell us about that and how people can get in contact with it.
The website is very easy to get, www.tworld.com. We are 2 Israelis and 2 Americans, 2 Jews and 2 Christians. And the 4 of us decided to go full force with it. Although we all have our life, jobs, careers, and families, and we are assembling a group of volunteers, Jews, Christians. We need every help we can get.
And it's really, we walk together. So yes. Jews and Christians walking together for a common purpose.
Correct.
So the website is www.tworld.com, www.tworld.com. We walk together, Christians and Jews walking together. And, you know, you have to ask yourself the question, and we always ask ourselves the question, many of us have said, you know, what would I have done back then during the Holocaust? Would I have been somebody who was silent? Would I have put my life at risk? You really don't have to wonder anymore. You really don't have to wonder, because whatever you're doing now is what you would have done then. You know, we can look back at the Holocaust and think, I would have been one of the brave ones. But whatever you're doing now, if you're silent, you're intimidated, you're afraid, you're walking away from what's going on, well, then you would have done that then. So wake up, and now is the time for us to collectively speak up for this incredible moment in history. Amit, what would you like to end and share with our viewers for what they can do and what kind of hope there is? What kind of marching orders do they have?
I believe that people should, first of all, physically lift their chins up. Don't bow to the ground, as you said before. Remember how old is the Judean-Christian tradition and where it came from. Support Israel, support organizations like mine and like Stand With Us and other very important organizations. And never, never keep quiet in the face of evil, in the face of hatred, because a silent majority is irrelevant, unfortunately. So this is my short message to the good people watching us.
And you see this right here. I never want this to be where my friends are. And if you want to make a difference, and you don't want to see this in the United States of America, then we need to stand up and we need to be a voice now. So I encourage you to go to the website, www.world.com. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you very much.
For being with us on Freedom Alive.
Thank you very much.
Matt, I'm thankful that we're able to bring those at home, this story from Amit, right from the front lines. Can you talk a little bit just about this amazing spiritual warfare that is happening?
Yeah, you have to really ask yourself, why is it that this kind of carnage is being inflicted against the Jewish people? They're actually helping those around them. Much of the technology that we enjoy today, our cell phones or other technological advances, even gardening, solar power, and so many other things, those are inventions that come directly from Israel. They benefit not just those in Israel, but around the world, and we benefit from that every day. So why is it that there's this hatred? You saw it on October 7, but you see it in Hezbollah. You also see it in Iran, the sponsor of all this terrorist activity, but now you see it globally as well, and you actually see it in the United States of America. And part of what you see there, I recently looked at someone who was in New York City with one of the Palestinian scarves over their face, shouting, "Death to America, death to Israel, death to the Jews." How does that happen? And you look at it through history, there's been one people group that has been targeted, and it's still targeted, and they're not doing any harm to anybody. Why is that? I think it's because of the spiritual component to it. Genesis 12, verse 3 talks about the very special nature of the seed of Abraham. Those who are Jews, those who are the Jewish lineage of Abraham, those who bless them will be blessed, those who curse will be cursed. And so there's been so many attacks through history to eliminate the Jewish people. They've not been successful, amazingly. And this small group of people, they're not large, survive. And not only do they survive, they thrive. So I think we have to look at this from a broader perspective, and that's why I think we have to make sure that we're on the right side of history and the right side of the Scripture.
Perhaps never in our life have we been called upon to have such courage, strength, and wisdom in the face of this spiritual warfare. The Bible makes it clear, very clear, we are to stand with Israel. There is no doubt about that. In closing, remember Genesis 12, verse 3, which says, "I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." That is, of course, God speaking about Israel. Our freedom is a gift from our Creator. We must never forget that and always protect it. So join us here next time, where you'll hear victories as well as ways you can stand up for your priceless freedom. Join us again for Freedom Alive.